Imagine you're the twin no one really sees, the one who reads old books under moonlight while your sister steals every spotlight, every compliment, every dream you quietly dared to have. You've spent your whole life stepping aside so she could shine brighter, smiling through the little thefts, forgiving the big ones, telling yourself family is family, until the night the Alpha King, tall, dangerous, golden-eyed, looks straight through the crowd and locks eyes with you. The pull hits like lightning in your veins. Faded. Real. Yours. For 3 perfect minutes, he holds you on the dance floor and whispers words no one has ever said to you. I like that you question the stars instead of just following them. His hand burns at the small of your back. His breath brushes your temple, and for once you feel chosen. Then the ritual bell tolls, the private claiming under the blood moon. You wait, heart pounding, hoping, and your twin sister walks out instead, his fresh bite glowing silver on her throat. She smiles at you across the roaring pack. The same small, victorious smile she gave you when she borrowed your dress, your ideas, your moments. Only this time she stole your soulmate. Betrayal rips through you like glass. Your own sister. The person who shared your first heartbeat. She didn't just take a boy. She took your forever. And she did it with a lie and a smile. But here's the part that will wreck you. Please, before we continue, please kindly tell us where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe and share. We love you. Let's continue. Chapter 1. The Night the Moon Lied. The blood moon hung low over Silvercrest Manor, heavy and red as a secret you wish you could swallow back. I stood just inside the arched doorway, fingers twisting the hem of my lavender silk gown, the fabric cool against skin that suddenly felt too warm. Elara Voss. The twin who cataloged stars in old leather journals, who whispered questions to the night like, what if the bond chooses you, but the world hands it to someone else? Tonight that question wasn't philosophy. It was my heartbeat. Seraphina laughed somewhere ahead of me, bright and cutting, the same laugh that had stolen every recital, every family toast, every boy who looked twice at our identical faces. She wore crimson tonight, the color of stolen things. Same dark waves, same green eyes, yet on her they blazed. On me they simply watched. We had grown up like this. Me in the library shadows, her in the sun. She took the spotlight the way other people took breath. I took the ache. The quiet kind most women know too well. When your sister borrows your favorite dress and never returns it, when she forgets to mention your name on the project that was yours, when she smiles while the world forgets you exist. I had forgiven 1,000 small thefts, but not this. The heavy doors swung open and the air changed. King Ronan Blackthorn stepped in, and every wolf in the hall lowered their gaze. Not me. I couldn't. 7 feet of quiet storm wrapped in black, shoulders broad enough to carry a kingdom, jaw carved from the same stone as the mountains that bordered our lands. His whiskey gold eyes swept the room once, then stopped on me. My breath snagged. The pull hit like warm honey poured straight into my veins, ancient, certain, mine. He crossed the floor without hurry, each step measured, deliberate. When he reached me, the rest of the world blurred into soft edges. Elara Voss, he said, voice low, threaded with something that felt like wonder. I read the treatise you submitted to the council last winter. You wrote that a true mark is not possession, it is recognition. 2 minds choosing each other beneath the instinct. A faint smile touched his mouth. Most scholars quote the old laws. You questioned them. I liked that. Heat climbed my throat. No one had ever quoted me back to myself. We stepped onto the dance floor as the orchestra began a slow, aching waltz. His hand settled at the small of my back, warm through silk. The other held mine like it belonged there. Tell me, he murmured, breath brushing my temple, if fate is written in the stars, why does it feel like choice when I look at you? I lifted my gaze, because maybe the stars only point. We still have to walk. His thumb traced a slow circle against my spine. The touch was barely there, yet it lit every nerve. We moved together as if we had done this in every lifetime. He spoke of the weight of the crown, the loneliness of decisions no one else could make. I spoke of the courage it took to be soft in a world that rewarded sharp edges. Our words wove tighter than the music. For 3 perfect minutes, I wasn't the quiet twin. I was seen. Then Seraphina appeared at his shoulder, perfume sweet and cloying. "Brother dear," she purred, sliding her arm through his with practiced ease. "You can't keep the king all to yourself. Some of us came to dance too." He hesitated. His eyes flicked back to mine, reluctant, almost apologetic, before custom pulled him away. I watched them spin across the floor. Her head tilted back in laughter. His hand rested where mine had been. The golden thread in my chest tugged painfully. I slipped out to the moonlit balcony, needing air, needing to steady the hope that had bloomed too fast. Below, the garden stretched silver and black. I pressed cool fingers to my burning cheeks and whispered to the night, "Please let it be real." The ritual bell tolled. My pulse thundered as I made my way to the antechamber. This was the moment. The private claiming under the blood moon where the king would bare his fangs and set his mark upon the neck of the one the goddess had chosen. I waited and waited. Then the great doors to the hall opened again. Seraphina stepped out first. Her head was high, throat arched like an offering. 2 perfect punctures glistened on the side of her neck, already glowing with the faint silver threads of a completed bond. The pack roared in approval. "Luna! Luna Seraphina!" The floor tilted beneath me. She caught my stare across the sea of cheering wolves. Her smile was small, private, victorious. The same smile she'd worn at 16 when she accidentally wore my prom dress and left me home. Only this time she hadn't borrowed a dress. She had borrowed my destiny. Later, in the dimly lit corridor behind the ballroom, I found her alone, touching the mark with reverent fingers. "How?" My voice cracked like thin ice. "You knew the dreams were mine. You knew the pull started the day he arrived. I told you everything." Seraphina turned, eyes soft with something that looked like pity. "Sweet Elara, always overthinking. I simply helped fate along. A little herbal veil before the private audience, just enough to blur scent in the candlelight. He was already half lost in the bond. When he bit down, he whispered your name." She shrugged, elegant, unrepentant. By then it was done. And really, would you have had the courage? You would have asked for a philosophical debate first. Tears spilled before I could stop them, hot, angry, devastating. "You stole my mark, my mate, my future with a lie and a smile." She stepped closer, voice dropping to the gentle tone she used when she wanted something. "I took what neither of us could afford to lose. You'll thank me one day. You get to stay safe in your books. I get to rule at his side. Win-win, sister." I turned away before the sob tore free, stumbling into the moonlit gardens. Lilacs brushed my arms like sympathetic hands. I sank onto a stone bench and let the grief crash over me. Wave after wave of how could you, the sister who once held my hand through childhood fevers had reached into my soul and taken the brightest part. The betrayal tasted metallic like blood under my tongue. Women carry this wound quietly everywhere. The person who shares your blood choosing ambition over you, leaving you to wonder if you were ever enough to begin with. Footsteps on gravel. I didn't look up. I knew the stride. King Ronan stopped a breath away. The mark on Seraphina's neck should have bound him to her, yet his presence still pulled at me like gravity. "Elara." Just my name, but it sounded torn. He knelt, bringing us eye to eye. The moonlight carved shadows across his face, highlighting the tension in his jaw, the storm in his golden gaze. "When I marked her," he said quietly, "it was wrong. The taste, the feel, everything in me rebelled even as instinct drove the bite. All I could see was your face in the candlelight. All I could hear was your voice asking me about choice." His hand rose, hesitated, then cupped my cheek with heartbreaking gentleness. His thumb swept away a tear. "The bond is screaming your name inside my chest." "Not hers." My heart cracked open wider, pain and impossible hope pouring in together. He leaned closer. Cedar and storm and something deeper, something that felt like home. His forehead rested against mine for one stolen second. The almost kiss hovered, trembling with everything unsaid. I felt the heat of his breath, the tremor in his fingers. "Stay after the feast," he whispered, voice rough with need and confusion. "Meet me at the ancient oak beyond the west wall. We have to talk about this, about us, because whatever magic she used, it didn't change the truth." Seraphina's voice floated from the terrace above, sweet as poisoned honey. "Ronan, my love?" The pack is waiting for their Luna. His eyes never left mine. For one fierce moment, the king looked ready to burn the world down rather than leave. Then he rose, jaw tight, and walked back toward duty. But his fingers brushed mine as he passed. One last secret spark that left my skin tingling and my soul wide awake. I sat alone under the blood moon. Heart a battlefield of fresh betrayal and fragile, terrifying hope. The mark on my sister's neck glowed like a lie. The mark on my soul burned like truth. And somewhere in the dark, the real bond waited, unfinished, calling my name. Chapter 2. Garden of Half-Truths. The blood moon still watched, heavy and unblinking, as I rose from the stone bench on trembling legs. My gown whispered against the gravel like a secret I could no longer keep. Somewhere behind me the feast roared on, laughter, clinking crystal, the pack chanting, "Luna! Luna Seraphina!" But my feet already knew the path to the ancient oak beyond the west wall. His words echoed in my blood. Stay after the feast. Meet me. I slipped through the side gate before anyone could pull me back into the lights. The garden air smelled of night-blooming jasmine and damp earth, cool against my flushed cheeks. Every step felt like walking between two versions of myself, the sister who had just lost everything, and the woman whose soul still burned with impossible hope. The great hall doors had barely closed behind me when the congratulations began. I had to return for the formal toasts. Custom demanded it. So I smoothed my face into the gentle mask I had worn since childhood and stepped back inside. "Elara, darling, you must be so proud," Lady Marin cooed, pressing my hands between hers. Her diamonds flashed like little knives. "Your twin, Luna of the Realm. What an honor for the Voss bloodline." I smiled until my cheeks ached. Yes, so proud. The words tasted like rust. All around me, wolves raised glasses to Seraphina, my sister, glowing in crimson, the fresh mark on her throat catching every candle flicker like a trophy. She caught my eye across the room and lifted her chin, that small private smile again. The same one she gave me at 12 when she borrowed my diary and read my crush aloud at dinner. Only this time the prize wasn't pages. It was him. My chest squeezed so tight I thought the bond might snap. This was the real-life ache no one talks about at family dinners, when the person who once shared your heartbeat chooses the spotlight over you. When your sister sees your dreams not as something to protect, but as something to take. I had spent years shrinking so she could shine, forgiving the little thefts, telling myself blood was thicker than envy. Tonight the lie cracked wide open, and the pain poured out raw and honest. I excused myself the moment the last toast ended, slipping into the shadowed corridor that led to the private family salon. Seraphina followed. Of course she did. She closed the door with a soft click that felt louder than any shout. "Stop looking at me like I murdered you," she said, voice light, almost affectionate. She touched the mark on her neck again, fingers reverent. "It's done, Elara. The goddess will understand. I simply sped things up for both of us." I stared at her, the twin face I knew better than my own. "You drugged the moment. You wore my scent. You let him bite you while he was thinking of me." Her laugh was soft, pitying. "Always so dramatic. I did it for us, sister. You would have hesitated, asked 100 questions about consent and stars and free will. I acted. Now you get to keep your quiet books, your safe little life, and I get to stand beside the strongest wolf alive. Win-win. You'll see." The gaslighting settled over me like heavy perfume. Sweet. Suffocating. How many women had heard this exact tone? The sister who says I took it so you wouldn't have to carry it. The friend who sleeps with your boyfriend because you deserved better anyway. The quiet betrayal that leaves you questioning your own memory. My eyes burned. "You stole the one thing that was never yours to touch," I whispered, "and you're smiling while I bleed." Seraphina stepped closer, brushing a tear from my cheek with the same fingers that now wore his mark. "You'll thank me when you're safe and I'm queen. Cry if you must. Just not where anyone can see." I turned away before the sob could break free and left her there, perfume and poison trailing behind me. The night air hit my face like mercy when I finally reached the gardens. My feet carried me past the lilacs, past the fountain, straight to the ancient oak whose branches had sheltered lovers' secrets for centuries. Moonlight painted silver stripes across the bark. I pressed my palm to the rough wood and breathed. In, out, trying to hold the pieces of myself together. Then he was there. Ronan stepped from the deeper shadows like he had been born from them. Black tunic open at the throat, hair tousled by the breeze, eyes burning gold even in the dark. The king who should have been bound to my sister, yet looked at me like I was the only star left in his sky. Elara. My name and his voice cracked something deep inside my chest. He crossed the distance in 3 strides and pulled me behind the wide trunk, out of sight from the manor lights. His hands framed my face with heartbreaking care, thumbs brushing my cheekbones as if I might vanish. I felt you hurting from across the hall, he murmured. Every fake smile you gave them. I felt it like claws in my own ribs. Tears spilled over before I could stop them. She said I'd thank her, that I'm too soft for this world, that she did it for both of us. His forehead dropped to mine. She lied. The bond inside me has never once turned toward her. It roars for you, only you. The relief hit so hard my knees buckled. He caught me, strong arms sliding around my waist, pulling me flush against him. Our heartbeats synced instantly, steady, frantic, perfectly matched. I could feel the heat of his body through thin silk and linen, the way his chest rose and fell with the same shaky rhythm as mine. His thumb traced my lower lip, slow, reverent. I have spent years carrying the weight of a kingdom alone. Decisions that cost lives. Nights where the crown felt like chains. Then you walked into that ballroom and spoke of choice. And for the first time I remembered what it feels like to be seen, not as king, as Ronan. I lifted trembling fingers to his jaw, feeling the faint stubble, the tension he carried for everyone else. I've spent my life being the shadow, the quiet twin, the one who steps aside so she can shine. Tonight I learned even my own sister sees me as optional. You are not optional, he breathed. You are the only thing in this world that feels inevitable. Our lips hovered a breath apart. The almost kiss trembled between us, warm, electric, full of every unsaid promise. I could taste the cedar and storm on his breath. His hands tightened at my waist, pulling me impossibly closer until there was no space left between our bodies. My fingers curled into his shirt. The night air itself seemed to hold its breath. He tilted his head, mouth brushing the corner of mine in the softest graze. A shiver raced down my spine. When this false bond breaks, and it will, I want to mark you properly. Slowly. With every intention my soul has been screaming since the moment I saw you. A soft moan escaped me. His thumb returned to my lip, parting it gently, eyes dark with the same aching need I felt burning through every vein. We stayed like that, pressed together under the oak, hearts hammering, breaths mingling in hot little clouds. So close, so dangerously close. Then her voice floated through the garden like silk over steel. Ronan, my love, the pack is asking for their king and Luna. Where are you hiding? Seraphina stood at the garden's edge, crimson skirts brushing the grass, scanning the shadows. Ronan's fingers laced through mine instantly, tight, refusing to release. His body stayed pressed to mine behind the oak, shielding me. His thumb stroked the back of my hand in silent reassurance. I'm not letting go. I'll be there in a moment, he called, voice steady for her, but his eyes never left mine. They burned with everything we couldn't say yet. The feast bells began to ring again, sweet and urgent, calling everyone back to the hall. Seraphina took one step closer, head tilting as if she sensed something. Darling. Ronan's grip on my hand tightened. He leaned in, lips brushing my ear in the barest whisper. This isn't over, not even close. The bells rang louder. And still, he didn't let go. Chapter 3. Pages and Promises. Ronan's grip on my hand tightened, warm and unyielding, as if the entire kingdom could crumble before he would release me. The feast bells rang louder, insistent, pulling the night back toward duty. Seraphina took another step into the garden, her crimson skirts whispering against the dew-kissed grass, head tilting with that sharp, searching gaze I had known since we were small. Darling? she called again, voice honeyed but edged with something sharper now. The pack grows restless without their king. He exhaled against my ear, a low, pained sound that vibrated straight into my bones. "One more second," he whispered, so quiet only I could hear. His thumb stroked the inside of my wrist in a slow, secret circle once, twice, like a vow pressed into skin. Then, with visible reluctance, he loosened his fingers. The loss of his touch felt like cold air rushing into an open wound. He stepped out from behind the oak, shoulders squared, every inch the king again. "I was taking air," he said smoothly, voice carrying across the garden with effortless command. The night called to me. Seraphina's eyes flicked past him, scanning the shadows where I still stood frozen, heart hammering against my ribs. For one terrifying heartbeat, I thought she saw me, but the moon shifted behind a cloud and she only smiled, slipping her arm through his as if the mark on her throat gave her every right. "Come back inside, my love. They want to toast us again." He let her lead him away, but not before his golden gaze found mine one last time over her shoulder, raw, burning, full of everything we hadn't been allowed to finish. "This isn't over." The words still echoed in the space between us as their footsteps faded toward the lights. I stayed behind the oak until the garden fell silent again, pressing my forehead to the rough bark, breathing in the scent of him that still clung to my skin, cedar and storm and impossible want. My body trembled with the memory of his thumb on my lip, the way our heartbeats had synced like they had been waiting centuries to do so. But doubt crept in the moment the warmth faded. Maybe I imagined the pull. The thought slithered through me, cold and familiar, the same voice that had whispered after every small theft Seraphina had ever committed. "You're too quiet, too soft, too much in your head." He's bound to her now. What if this is just pity? The betrayal from earlier pressed heavier now, realistic and aching in the way only women who have been quietly erased understand. My own sister had smiled while rewriting my future, and here I was, clinging to a half-whispered promise from a king who still had to walk beside her in public. I slipped back to my chamber alone, the lavender gown suddenly feeling like morning clothes. Sleep refused to come. I lay staring at the canopy, replaying every graze of his fingers, every word about choice and stars, while the false mark on Seraphina's neck glowed somewhere down the hall like a mocking beacon. Dawn arrived too soon, pale and indifferent. I dressed in a simple gray day gown, the color of fog and forgotten things, and made my way to the East Wing library as if pulled by invisible threads. The room was empty when I arrived, tall windows letting in slanted morning light, shelves heavy with leather-bound volumes that had always felt safer than people. I ran my fingers along the spines, trying to steady the spiral in my chest. He won't come. He'll choose duty. He has to. But the door opened softly behind me. Ronan stepped inside, closing it with a quiet click that sealed the world out. He wore a simple black tunic, sleeves rolled to his forearms, hair still damp from a morning bath. No crown, no court mask, just the man who had held my hand in the dark and refused to let go. "You came," I breathed, the relief so sharp it stung my eyes. "I would have crawled through fire to get here." He crossed the room in measured steps, stopping just short of touching me. Last night, every second I spent beside her felt like a lie wearing my own skin. We moved to the wide window seat overlooking the gardens where we had almost kissed. Sunlight poured over us, warm and golden, painting everything in soft promise. He gestured to the stack of books I had unconsciously gathered, my favorites on ancient bonds, celestial mappings, the philosophy of faded threads. "Read to me," he said quietly, "the way you would if the world hadn't tried to steal you from me." My hands trembled as I opened the first volume, the one I had written notes in last winter. My voice started small, then grew steadier as the words flowed. Passages about how true marks are not chains, but mirrors, reflecting two souls choosing each other beyond instinct. He listened with his eyes half closed, head tilted back against the stone, but every few lines his fingers would brush mine where they rested on the page. The touch was feather light, yet it sent sparks racing up my arm. When I paused on a line about breaking false bonds through mutual recognition, he opened his eyes. The gold in them had softened to molten honey. "You wrote that the goddess doesn't punish questions. She waits for answers spoken in truth." His voice was low, intimate, like velvet dragged across bare skin. I have spent my reign making decisions no one else dares to question. But with you, I want to question everything. The mark on her throat feels like static. Empty noise. Yours would feel like coming home. The conversation deepened, turning from philosophy to the raw ache beneath it. I told him about the nights I had shrunk myself so Seraphina could shine brighter. The real-life weight so many women carry in silence. Smiling at family gatherings while your sister claims credit for your ideas, watching her wear the dress you saved for. Hearing you're just jealous when you finally speak up. He listened without interrupting, then shared his own quiet loneliness, the crown that isolated him, the fear that no one would ever see past the king to the man who wondered if fate was fair. You make me believe I can choose more than survival, he murmured. The air between us thickened. He reached for me then, gentle but certain, pulling me into his lap on the wide window seat. My knees settled on either side of his hips, the gray gown pooling around us like mist. One of his hands slid slowly up my spine beneath the thin fabric of my robe, warm palm mapping every vertebra as if learning a sacred text by heart. The other cupped the back of my neck, thumb stroking the exact spot where his mark should one day rest. I shivered, leaning into him. His mouth found my collarbone, open and reverent, slow, lingering kisses that left damp heat in their wake. Each press of his lips was a question and an answer at once. I see you. I want you. This is real. My fingers threaded into his hair, holding him closer as a soft, needy sound escaped my throat. His hand on my spine pressed firmer, pulling our bodies flush until I could feel the steady thunder of his heart against mine. The kisses trailed higher, teasing the hollow of my throat, then lower again, each one deeper, more open-mouthed, until I was trembling in his arms, lost in the sweet ache of almost. We stayed like that for long. Stolen minutes, bodies aligned, breaths ragged, the intellectual fire of our conversation, melting into something far more primal and tender. No rush, no claiming, just the exquisite promise of what was coming. But the morning light shifted. Distant footsteps echoed in the corridor, servants calling everyone to breakfast. In the great hall, we parted reluctantly, his forehead resting against mine one final time. Tonight, he whispered. The same place. I need more of this, more of you. I nodded, lips still tingling, soul alight with fragile hope. The great hall smelled of fresh bread and spiced tea when I arrived. Seraphina already sat at the high table, radiant in white silk, the mark on her neck proudly displayed. Ronan took his place beside her, but his eyes found mine across the room with quiet fire. Then it happened. The silver threads of the false mark on Seraphina's throat flickered, visible to everyone. They shimmered, then dimmed like a candle guttering in wind, the glow fracturing into faint, broken lines for one heartbeat before steadying again. Gasps rippled through the hall. Seraphina's hand flew to her neck, eyes widening in shock that melted instantly into calculated fury. Her gaze locked on me across the sea of stunned wolves. You! She hissed, voice carrying like a whip crack. You did this! Sabotage! Jealous little sister trying to unravel what the goddess herself blessed. Every head turned toward me. My heart plummeted even as Ronan's jaw tightened, his golden eyes flashing with protective rage he could not yet unleash. The threads flickered once more, fainter this time, and the entire pack waited, breath held, for my answer. Chapter 4. Whispers Behind Silk. The hall held its breath. Every eye in the great hall pinned me where I stood. Elara Voss, the quiet twin, suddenly the villain in a story no one had asked me to write. Seraphina's accusation hung in the air like smoke. You did this. Sabotage. Jealous little sister trying to unravel what the goddess herself blessed. My mouth went dry. The flickering threads on her neck had already steadied again, faint silver lines knitting back together as if nothing had happened, but the damage was done. Whispers rippled outward, soft at first, then bolder. She's always been the jealous one. Too much time in books, not enough in the real world. Poor Seraphina, carrying the true bond while her sister schemes. I felt the familiar weight settle over me, the slow, quiet erasure I had known my whole life. The way people look past you when your sister stands brighter. The way they believe the loud story over the soft truth. Women carry this wound in silence every day, smiling at holiday tables while someone else claims your achievements, nodding politely when your ideas are repeated as someone else's brilliance, swallowing the hurt because speaking up makes you the difficult one. Ronan rose from his seat at the high table. The movement was calm, deliberate, but the air around him crackled. His voice cut through the murmurs like a blade through silk. Enough! One word. The hall fell silent. He stepped down from the dais, eyes never leaving Seraphina's. The mark flickered. We all saw it. To accuse your own blood of dark magic without proof is beneath the dignity of this pack, and beneath you, Luna. The title landed like a velvet glove over iron. Polite. Deadly. Seraphina's smile didn't falter, but her fingers tightened on the edge of the table. Of course, my king. I spoke in the heat of pain. She touched her throat again, theatrical, vulnerable. The bond is unsettled. I only want what is right for us all. Ronan's jaw flexed. He turned to the pack. The matter will be examined quietly. No accusations until truth is clear. Return to your meals. The tension broke slowly. Forks clinked again. Conversations resumed in hushed tones. But the damage lingered. I felt the shift in every sidelong glance, pity mixed with suspicion. The quiet twin had become the threat. I slipped out before the meal ended, needing air, needing walls between me and the eyes that now weighed me. My chamber felt too small, too full of echoes. I paced until dusk bled through the windows, then changed into a simple nightdress of pale blue silk and a soft robe. No plan. Just the pull in my chest that had never once lied to me. A soft knock at the secret passage door, the one hidden behind the tapestry of the first Luna. I opened it. Ronan stood there in shadow, hood drawn low, no royal insignia. Just the man who had refused to let go of my hand in the garden. He stepped inside without a word, closed the door, and pulled me into his arms. The embrace was fierce, almost desperate. His hands framed my face, thumbs sweeping away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I wanted to tear the table apart when she spoke. He rasped against my hair. Every instinct screamed to drag you up beside me and show them who the bond truly calls to. I know, my voice cracked, but you can't. Not yet. He pulled back just enough to look at me, golden eyes stormy. I hate this. Hiding you like a secret when you should be the only truth in my life. We moved deeper into the chamber. He guided me to the low chaise by the fire, sat, and pulled me down beside him. For long minutes we simply held each other. His arms around my waist, my head tucked under his chin, listening to the steady thunder of his heart. No words, just the quiet comfort of skin and breath and shared silence. The kind of closeness that heals more than any declaration. Then he spoke, voice low and rough. I sneaked you into the royal wing tonight because I couldn't breathe another hour without knowing you were safe, without touching you, without reminding myself this is real. I lifted my head. Our faces were inches apart. It is real, I whispered, even when they try to make me doubt it. His hand slid to the nape of my neck, fingers threading into my hair. Let me show you. The kiss started slow, soft press of lips, testing, reverent. Then it deepened. His mouth moved over mine with aching patience, tongue tracing the seam until I opened for him. Heat bloomed low in my belly. His other hand slipped beneath the edge of my robe, palm gliding up the silk of my nightdress to rest warm against the small of my back. Skin on skin through thin fabric. Electric. I shifted, straddling his lap without thinking. The robe parted, cool air kissing my thighs. His hands settled on my hips, thumbs stroking slow circles that made me arch into him. Our bodies aligned perfectly, heat against heat, heartbeat against heartbeat. He kissed down my jaw, along the column of my throat, pausing at the exact spot where his mark belonged. Open-mouthed, teasing suction that left me gasping. Ronan, his name was half plea, half prayer. He growled low in his throat, the sound vibrating against my skin. Say it again. Ronan. His hands slid higher, mapping the curve of my waist, the dip of my spine, learning me like sacred territory. The kisses grew hungrier, teeth grazing my collarbone, tongue soothing the faint sting. My fingers dug into his shoulders, clutching the fabric of his tunic as if I could anchor myself against the tide of want rising between us. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes, pupils blown wide with need. "I want to mark you here," he murmured, thumb brushing the pulse point on my throat. "Right here, so every time you breathe, you feel me. So the world knows you're mine." A shiver raced through me. "Then do it," I whispered, reckless, desperate. "When the false one breaks, when it's only us." His mouth crashed back to mine, urgent, claiming, full of everything we couldn't yet have. Hands roaming with more purpose now, one sliding up my thigh beneath the silk, stopping just short of where I ached most, the other cupping my breast through the thin fabric, thumb circling slowly until my back bowed and a soft moan spilled into his mouth. We kissed until the fire burned low, until our breaths came in ragged pants and our bodies trembled with the effort of stopping. He rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed, fighting for control. "I could take you right now," he breathed, "and it would still not be enough. I want forever with you, Elara, not stolen minutes." I cupped his face. "Then fight for it, the way I'm starting to fight for myself." He kissed me once more, slow, lingering, a promise sealed in heat. We parted only when the first gray light of false dawn crept through the curtains. He slipped back through the secret passage with one last brush of lips against my temple. "Sleep," he whispered. "I'll handle the whispers. You just keep being you. That's the part they can't steal." I curled beneath the covers, skin still tingling, soul alight with fragile certainty. For the first time, the ache of betrayal felt smaller than the hope blooming inside me. But dawn brought no mercy. A sharp knock shattered the quiet. I opened the door to find a royal guard, face carefully blank. "The Luna requests your presence in the royal wing, immediately." My stomach dropped. I followed him through corridors lined with portraits of past rulers, each one watching me with silent judgment. The guard stopped outside a heavy oak door, the private solar of the Luna. Seraphina waited inside, dressed in pale gold silk that made her look like morning light itself. She stood by the window, back to me, fingers tracing the mark on her throat. When she turned, her smile was soft, almost kind. "Close the door, sister." I did. She crossed the room slowly, stopping just short of touching me. "I felt the bond call me to the royal wing at dawn," she said quietly. "It pulled me straight to the king's chamber. I thought perhaps he needed me. But when I arrived, the door was locked. And I smelled you on the threshold, your lavender, your fear, your hope." My blood turned to ice. She tilted her head. "He's hiding you in his rooms now, sneaking you through passages like a mistress? It's not—" "Don't lie." Her voice dropped to a whisper, intimate, venomous. "I can feel the fracture growing. Every time the threads flicker, it hurts. But I won't let it break. Not for you." She stepped closer, breath brushing my ear. "Watch me keep him anyway." The door behind us opened. Ronan stood there, eyes blazing, fury barely leashed. Seraphina turned to him with perfect composure. "My love, I was just having a sisterly chat." His gaze flicked to me, checking, protective, then back to her. "Leave her alone." Seraphina laughed softly. "Of course. But the pack is already talking. And the bond, it's calling louder every day. To me." She swept past him, skirts whispering like secrets. Ronan crossed to me in 2 strides, pulling me against his chest. "She's lying," he growled. "The call is to you, always you." But as he held me, I felt the tremor in his arms. The fracture was growing, and Seraphina was ready to bleed the pack dry before she let it break. Chapter 5, The Weight of Want. Ronan's arms tightened around me the moment the solar door clicked shut behind. "Seraphina." His chest rose and fell against mine in harsh, uneven breaths, as though he were holding back a storm with nothing but will. I could feel the tremor in his hands where they cradled the back of my head. Fury, fear, and something deeper warring inside him. "She's not going to stop," I whispered into the fabric of his tunic. "She'll bleed the whole pack before she lets this bond break." He pulled back just enough to look at me, golden eyes fierce and unguarded. "Then we stop her first. Not with teeth or claws. With truth." His thumb brushed my cheek. wiping away the damp track of a tear I hadn't noticed falling. But right now, I need you to breathe with me. Just for a minute, before the next wave hits. We sank onto the wide velvet bench beneath the window. The morning light had turned soft and golden, spilling across the floor like spilled honey. He drew me sideways into his lap, my back to his chest, his arms wrapping around me from behind, one hand splayed protectively over my stomach. The other found mine and laced our fingers together so tightly our knuckles turned white. For long minutes we simply existed like that, his heartbeat steady against my spine, my breathing slowly matching his. No words, no plan. Just the quiet miracle of being held without having to earn it. Then the dam inside me cracked. I've spent my whole life being the good twin, I said, voice small and raw. The one who smiles when she takes the credit. The one who says it's fine when she borrows my dreams and never gives them back. I told myself it was noble. That family meant sacrifice. That if I was quiet enough, kind enough, patient enough, someone would finally choose me first. His arms tightened. A low sound rumbled in his throat, half growl, half pain. But she didn't just take a dress or a story this time, I continued. The words spilling faster now, hot and jagged. She took you. The one thing that ever felt like it was written just for me. And the worst part of me still wonders if I deserved it. If I'm too soft, too slow, too much in my head to hold something this big. Women walk around with this ache every day. Ronan. We smile through family dinners while our sisters, our friends, our mothers rewrite our stories and call it love. We tell ourselves we're overreacting. We stay silent so we don't become the problem. And then one day we wake up and realize we've been erased from our own lives. Tears came then, quiet at first, then shaking sobs that made my whole body tremble. I hadn't cried like this since we were children, since the night Seraphina told our father my poem was hers and he read it aloud at the solstice feast while I sat in the corner biting my lip until it bled. Ronan turned me gently in his arms so I faced him. He cupped my face between his palms, thumbs sweeping under my eyes. "Look at me," he said, voice rough with emotion. "You are not erased. You are the only thing in this entire cursed kingdom that feels solid to me. I have carried the weight of thousands, decisions that cost lives, nights where the crown felt like a noose, but none of it ever made me feel as alone as watching you smile through the congratulations while your sister wore my mark like stolen jewelry." He pressed his forehead to mine, eyes closing as if the words hurt to speak. "I was raised to believe a king must never show weakness, never need anyone. The throne was my only companion. Then you walked into that ballroom in lavender silk and spoke about choice like it was the most radical thing in the world. And suddenly I understood loneliness, not as duty, but as the absence of you." A tear slipped down his cheek. I caught it with my fingertips, stunned. "I've never cried in front of anyone," he admitted, voice cracking. "Not since I was a boy watching my father die on the battlefield. But holding you while you break, it breaks me too. Because I should have protected you from this, from her. From the moment I felt the pull, I should have roared the truth instead of letting custom chain me." I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him closer until there was no space left between us. "You're here now," I whispered. "That's what matters." We held each other like that for what felt like hours, crying together, not for what was lost, but for everything we had both carried alone for too long. His tears wet my hair, mine soaked the collar of his tunic. There was no rush to fix it, no need to speak grand promises. Just the raw, healing honesty of two people finally allowed to feel the weight without apology. Eventually, the sobs eased into quiet hiccups. He kissed my temple, my cheek, the corner of my mouth, soft, reverent presses that tasted of salt and relief. "Come with me," he murmured. He led me to the massive hearth in the corner of the solar. A low fire still smoldered from the night before. He knelt, coaxing the flames higher with fresh logs until warm light danced across the room. Then he stood and turned to me. Slowly, achingly slowly, he reached for the tie of my robe. His fingers trembled as he loosened it, letting the silk fall open. Cool air kissed my skin through the thin nightdress beneath. His gaze never left mine, asking, never demanding. I nodded. He slid the robe from my shoulders, letting it pool at my feet. Then his hands found the hem of my nightdress. Inch by reverent inch, he lifted it, exposing calves, thighs, the soft curve of my hips, the dip of my waist. When the fabric cleared my head, he let it drop, leaving me bare before him in the firelight. His breath caught. "You are beautiful," he said, not like a king complimenting a subject, but like a man seeing the sun for the first time. Not because of silk or moonlight, because you're you. He shed his own tunic next, broad shoulders, sculpted chest, the faint scars of old battles etched across golden skin. Then he stepped closer. We came together skin to skin. His arms wrapped around me, one hand splaying across my lower back, the other cradling my nape. I pressed my palms to his chest, feeling the wild beat beneath. He kissed me then, slow, deep, unhurried. Tongues sliding, breaths mingling, bodies fitting together like pieces of the same broken thing finally made whole. We sank to the thick rug before the fire. He laid me down gently, covering me with his warmth. Hands roamed, his tracing the curve of my breast, thumbs circling the peak until I arched and gasped, mine sliding down the ridges of his back, nails dragging lightly until he groaned against my throat. He kissed every inch he could reach, collarbone, the sensitive spot beneath my ear, the hollow between my breasts, each press of lips a vow. When his mouth closed over one nipple, tongue flicking slow and deliberate, pleasure arrowed straight to my core. I threaded my fingers through his hair, holding him there, hips lifting instinctively. He moved lower, kissing the soft swell of my stomach, the dip of my hip bones, until his breath ghosted between my thighs. He paused, looking up at me with eyes gone molten. "Tell me to stop if it's too much." "Don't stop," I breathed. His mouth found me, slow, worshipful licks that made stars burst behind my eyelids. He savored me like I was the only thing worth tasting, hands pinning my hips when I tried to writhe away from the intensity. Pleasure built in waves, cresting higher and higher until I shattered with a broken cry, his name torn from my throat. He crawled back up my body, kissing every mark his mouth had left. When he settled between my thighs, hard length pressing hot against my core, he didn't push inside. Instead, he rocked gently, sliding along my slickness, letting us feel each other without crossing that final line. "I want to claim you so badly it hurts," he rasped against my lips. "But not until the false bond is ash. Not until you can wear my mark without a single shadow of doubt." I wrapped my legs around him, pulling him closer, rocking up to meet every slow glide. "Then hold me like this," I whispered, "until the world catches up." We moved together, skin sliding, breaths hitching, pleasure building again in slow, aching waves. No rush to finish, just the exquisite torture of being wanted so completely it erased every doubt. When the second release found me, he swallowed my cry with a deep kiss, following me over the edge with a low, guttural groan, spilling hot against my stomach. We lay tangled afterward, sweaty, trembling, hearts hammering in perfect sync. His fingers traced idle patterns on my back while I pressed soft kisses to the scar above his heart. "I choose you," he murmured into my hair. "Every day, every hour, no matter what she does next." I believed him, but belief is fragile in the face of what came next. A distant bell tolled, midday summons to the great hall. We dressed in silence, stealing touches, reluctant to let the world intrude again. When we stepped into the corridor, a page was waiting, face pale. "The Luna has collapsed in the hall," he said. "She's clutching her neck, screaming that the bond is killing her. She says Lady Elara is doing it. Through jealousy, through sabotage." Ronan's hand found mine, squeezing hard. Seraphina lay on a chaise in the center of the hall when we arrived, surrounded by concerned pack members. Her face was ashen, tears streaming, hand pressed to the mark. The silver threads flickered wildly now, cracking like thin ice under pressure. She lifted her head as we entered, her eyes locked on mine. And through the performance, through the calculated tears, she mouthed 4 silent words. "Watch me keep him anyway." The hall waited. The threads cracked louder, and somewhere deep inside my chest, the true bond roared in answer. Chapter 6, Threads Unraveling. The great hall seemed to shrink around us the moment Seraphina mouthed those 4 silent words. "Watch me keep him anyway." Her performance was flawless, pale cheeks streaked with tears, hand trembling against the fracturing mark, voice pitched just high enough to carry heartbreak without ever losing elegance. The pack surged closer, murmuring concern, offering water, Pillows, anything to soothe their Luna. Ronan's fingers stayed locked with mine behind the folds of his cloak. A hidden anchor in the chaos. She's in pain, one elder said, voice thick with worry. The bond is tearing her apart. Another voice, sharper, younger, cut through. Lady Elara was seen leaving the royal wing at dawn. Perhaps the jealousy runs deeper than we thought. The accusation landed like a stone in still water. Ripples of doubt spread. Eyes that had pitied me earlier now narrowed. Ronan stepped forward, pulling me with him so our joined hands were briefly visible before he released. Me, subtle, but deliberate. Silence, he commanded. The word carried the weight of thunder without being raised. The Luna will be attended in her chambers. Healers now. The rest of you, disperse. Rumors will not decide truth here. Seraphina allowed 2 attendants to help her rise, leaning on them with theatrical fragility. As she passed me, her gaze locked on mine again, cold, triumphant, utterly certain. The silver threads on her throat pulsed once, violently, then steadied. She smiled through the pain. The hall emptied slowly. Ronan guided me to a side alcove, out of sight but not out of hearing. The moment we were alone, he pressed me against the cool stone wall, forehead to mine, breathing hard. She's turning them against you, he said quietly. And she's winning. I know. My voice shook. But the mark is breaking. We can see it. They can see it. Not fast enough. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb stroking the line of my cheekbone. I received word an hour ago. She leaked copies of your letters, the ones you wrote to the council last winter about bond philosophy. She's framed them as obsessive ramblings, the quiet twin who envies her. Sister's destiny and plots to steal it. The 8 elders are already convening to discuss whether your presence is destabilizing. The betrayal hit fresh and brutal. Those letters had been private thoughts, vulnerable questions about fate and choice, things I'd poured onto parchment when the pull toward him first started keeping me awake at night. Now they were weapons. Seraphina hadn't just stolen the mark. She was rewriting my mind into something twisted, something dangerous. I closed my eyes. She's always known how to make me the villain without ever raising her voice. It's the quietest kind of cruelty. The kind no one questions because it wears a smile. Ronan's lips brushed my temple. Then we answer louder, with truth, tonight. He led me through back corridors to his private study, a room I had never seen. Dark wood shelves lined with ancient tomes, a massive desk scattered with maps and decrees, a single wide window overlooking the moonlit forest. A low fire burned in the grate. The space smelled of cedar, ink, and hymn. He locked the door. Then he turned to me, and the mask of the king fell away completely. I'm done hiding, he said. Rain began to patter against the glass, soft at first, then harder, as if the sky itself felt the urgency. The bond inside me has never wavered, not once. It screams your name every time she touches me, every time she smiles like she's won. I feel sick with it. He crossed to me in 3 strides, hands framing my face. I choose you, Elara, not because fate demands it, because I want you. Your mind, your softness, your fire, your questions, your everything. And I will burn every lie she's built to keep us apart. The kiss that followed was desperate, rain-lashed, feral. His mouth claimed mine with bruising hunger, teeth grazing my lower lip, tongue sweeping deep, tasting like storm and need. I clutched his shoulders, nails digging in through fabric, pulling him closer until there was nothing between us but heat and heartbeat. He backed me against the desk, lifting me onto the edge in one smooth motion. Papers scattered. Neither of us cared. Rain hammered the windows now, wind rattling the panes. Lightning flashed, illuminating us in stark white. His hands shoving my robe open, my fingers tearing at the laces of his tunic. Skin met skin in a rush. His mouth moved to my throat, sucking hard at the unmarked spot, marking me with bruises instead of fangs because the real claim had to wait. You're mine, he growled against my pulse. Say it. I'm yours. The words came out breathless, broken. Always. He yanked my nightdress up around my waist, hands rough and reverent at once. Fingers slid between my thighs, finding me slick and ready. A low curse tore from his throat when I arched into his touch. He circled slowly at first, teasing, torturing, then faster, firmer, until I was whimpering against his shoulder. Tell me what you want, he rasped. Rain drowned the world outside. You, I gasped, inside me now! He freed himself with shaking hands, thick and hot against my entrance. One slow, deep thrust and he was buried to the hilt. We both froze, breaths ragged, bodies trembling, at the overwhelming rightness of it. Then he moved. Hard, deep, relentless. The desk creaked beneath us. My legs wrapped around his waist, heels digging into his back, urging him faster. His hands gripped my hips, angling me so every stroke hit exactly where I needed. Pleasure coiled tight and bright, building with every wet slide, every filthy grind. Look at me, he demanded. I did. Golden eyes locked on mine, wild, possessive, tender all at once. When this is over, he panted between thrusts, I'm going to mark you so deep the stars will feel it. You'll wear me on your skin, in your blood, in every breath. No one will ever question who you belong to again. The words pushed me over. I shattered around him with a cry he swallowed with a bruising kiss, hips stuttering as he followed. Hot pulses deep inside me, claiming in the only way he could until the false bond died. We stayed locked together afterward, foreheads pressed, breaths mingling in the quiet aftermath. Rain softened to a steady drum. His fingers traced lazy circles on my thigh. I leaked nothing, he murmured. But she's already convinced half the council you're unstable. Tomorrow they'll call for a formal inquiry. They'll ask you to leave the manor for the stability of the pack. My heart clenched. And if I refuse? Then we fight with everything we have. He kissed me softly, once, twice. But tonight you're just mine. We dressed slowly, stealing touches, reluctant to let the moment end. He walked me to the hidden passage, pressing one last kiss to my palm. Sleep if you can, he said. Tomorrow the threads unravel further, and so does she. I slipped back to my chamber, body still humming, soul alight with the certainty of his choice. For the first time, the betrayal felt smaller than the love growing in its place. But dawn brought the storm. The monthly pack gathering was called at first light, emergency session in the great hall. I entered quietly, taking a seat near the back. Ronan stood at the head, face carved from stone. Seraphina sat beside him, pale but composed, the mark on her throat now visibly cracked, thin silver lines spiderwebbing across her skin like shattered glass. The elders spoke first. Concerns about the bond's instability, whispers of sabotage, references to my letters of obsession. Then Seraphina rose. She moved to the center of the hall with perfect grace, touched her throat, winced theatrically. The pain is unbearable, she said, voice trembling just enough to break hearts. Every time the threads fracture, it feels like my soul is being torn. I have tried to be strong, for the pack, for my king, but I fear my own sister wishes me harm. Gasps, murmurs. She turned slowly, eyes finding mine across the crowded space. I do not accuse lightly, she continued, but the evidence is clear. The letters, the late-night visits, the way the bond calms when she is near and fractures when she is not. A single tear tracked down her cheek. Elara, why do you hate me so much that you would kill me to have what was never yours? The hall erupted. Ronan slammed his hand on the arm of his chair. Enough! But it was too late. Seraphina swayed, deliberately, then collapsed to her knees, clutching her neck. A visible ripple of agony tore through her. The cracked threads pulsed once, twice, bright, then dim, then bright again. She lifted her head, eyes locking on mine through the pain. Pure calculated hatred. And in that moment, the entire pack saw what she wanted them to see. A suffering Luna, and a jealous sister destroying her from the inside. The elders rose. Lady Elara, the eldest intoned, you will be confined to your chambers until the inquiry tomorrow, for the good of the pack. Guards moved toward me. Ronan surged to his feet, fury blazing. But Seraphina's hand shot out, weak, trembling, catching his wrist. My love, she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Don't let her tear us apart, please. The guards reached me, and the true bond inside my chest roared so loudly I thought the walls would crack. Chapter 7, Moonlight Reckoning. The guards' hands closed around my arms, firm, not cruel but unyielding. The great hall spun into a blur of shocked faces, murmured outrage, and the sharp scent of fear sweat from wolves who didn't know which side to choose. Seraphina remained on her knees, one hand still clutching Ronan's wrist, the other pressed to the spiderwebbed mark that now looked more like broken porcelain than silver thread. Every flicker sent a visible shudder through her body, yet her eyes never left mine. Hatred so pure it almost looked like love. Ronan tore free of her grasp with a low snarl that vibrated through the stone floor. "Release her now!" The guards hesitated. The eldest elder stepped forward, voice grave. "Your Majesty, the pack's stability is not served by chaining an innocent woman on the word of a fractured bond." Ronan's tone was ice over steel. "Elara Voss is under my personal protection. Touch her again without my command, and you will answer to me, not as king, but as the wolf who will rip out your throat for threatening what is mine." Silence crashed heavier than any shout. The guards released me instantly. I stumbled forward a step, heart slamming so hard I could taste copper. Ronan crossed the distance in 2 strides, positioning himself between me and the hall like a living shield. His hand found the small of my back, warm, steady, a silent promise. "I will not let them take you." Seraphina rose slowly, assisted by 2 attendants who looked torn between awe and terror. She smoothed her gown with trembling fingers. "You would choose her pain over mine?" Her voice cracked on the last word, perfect theater. "After everything we've built?" Ronan didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on mine, golden and blazing. "What we built was a lie you forced. What I feel for Elara is truth I can no longer deny." A ripple of gasps. Someone whispered treason. Someone else hushed them. The eldest elder cleared his throat. "The inquiry will proceed at first light tomorrow. Until then, Lady Elara will be confined to guest quarters under guard. No visitors. No exceptions." Ronan's jaw tightened, but he gave one sharp nod. "So be it. But know this. Any hand raised against her will answer to me. Personally." He turned, guiding me from the hall with a protectiveness that bordered on possession. The pack parted like water. No one dared speak. The guest chamber they assigned me was high in the west tower, beautiful, remote, and unmistakably a cage. Moonlight poured through tall, arched windows, silvering the stone floor. A fire crackled low in the hearth. Guards stationed outside the door. No key turned in the lock, but the message was clear. I stood at the window, arms wrapped around myself, staring at the forest beyond the manor walls. The true bond pulsed in my chest, hot, insistent, alive like a second heartbeat screaming, "Fight, fight, fight." A soft scrape at the balcony door. I spun. Ronan slipped inside from the shadows, cloak dark as midnight, hood thrown back. He crossed the room without a sound and pulled me into his arms before I could speak. "I couldn't wait until dawn," he breathed against my hair. "Not after watching them put hands on you." I clung to him, face buried in the crook of his neck. "They'll never let us be together. Not if she keeps bleeding for the audience." He drew back, cupping my face. "Then we stop pretending tomorrow is about evidence. Tomorrow is about choice." His thumb stroked my cheeks. "I need you to hear me, really hear me, before the sun rises." We moved to the wide window seat. Moonlight bathed us in pale silver. He sat, pulled me into his lap, so I straddled him, our foreheads touching. His hands settled warm on my hips, grounding us both. "I have spent my life believing love was a luxury kings could not afford," he said quietly. "Duty first, pack first, always first." But the moment I saw you in that lavender gown, asking questions no one else dared, I understood something terrifying. I would burn the crown for 5 more minutes of your voice in my ear. My throat tightened. "Ronan, let me finish," his voice cracked. "Seraphina took the mark because she wanted power. I understand that hunger. I've felt it myself. But you never asked for power. You asked for meaning, for choice, for someone to look at you and say, you are enough exactly as you are. And God's help me, Elara, I want to be the one who gives you that. Not because fate carved our names together, but because I choose you. Every jagged piece, every quiet doubt, every time you've shrunk yourself so someone else could shine. I choose all of it." Tears slipped down my cheeks. I've spent so long believing I had to earn being wanted. That if I was softer, smaller, more forgiving, eventually someone would stay. But she took you anyway. And part of me still wonders if I'm worth the war this will become. He lifted my chin gently. "You are worth every war, every crown, every throne. If tomorrow the pact demands I reject you to save the false bond, I will walk away from all of it. I will take you beyond these walls, beyond this title, and build something new. Just us, no audience, no performance. Only truth. The words sank into me like warm rain after drought. I leaned in, brushing my lips against his. Soft at first, testing. Then deeper, hungrier. He groaned low in his throat, hands sliding up my back beneath the thin nightdress I still wore from the night before. The kiss turned molten, tongue sliding, teeth grazing, breath shared in frantic little gasps. I rocked against him instinctively, feeling him harden beneath me. His fingers dug into my hips, guiding the slow grind until pleasure sparked bright behind my eyes. He lifted me as if I weighed nothing, carrying me to the wide bed. We fell together in a tangle of limbs and moonlight. Clothes disappeared in hurried pulls, his tunic, my nightdress, until it was only skin on skin, firelight and silver washing over us. He settled between my thighs, hard length pressing hot and insistent at my entrance, but he paused, golden eyes searching mine. "Tell me you want this," he rasped. "Not because the bond demands it, because you choose me." "I choose you," I whispered, legs wrapping around his waist. "I've chosen you since the first time you quoted my words back to me." He entered me in one slow, deep thrust, stretching, filling, claiming. We both stilled, breathing hard, savoring the exquisite rightness of it. Then he began to move, long, deliberate strokes that hit every sensitive place inside me. My nails raked down his back. His mouth found my throat, kissing the unmarked spot with reverent hunger. "Gods, Elara." His voice broke on my name. "You feel like coming home." I arched beneath him, meeting every thrust, hips rolling in perfect rhythm. Pleasure built in tight, shimmering coils, higher, hotter, until it snapped. I shattered around him with a cry he swallowed in a bruising kiss, body clenching, pulsing, pulling him deeper. He followed seconds later, hips stuttering, low groan torn from his chest as he spilled inside me, hot and claiming. We collapsed together, tangled and breathless. His weight pressed me into the mattress, comforting, safe. He kissed my temple, my cheek, the corner of my mouth, soft now, worshipful. "I love you," he murmured against my skin. "Not the idea of you, not the bond. You, the woman who questions stars and still believes in choice." Tears slipped into my hair. "I love you too. Enough to fight for this. Enough to lose everything if I have to." He rolled us, so I lay draped across his chest, listening to the steady thunder of his heart. Moonlight painted silver stripes across his skin. We stayed like that, quiet, holding each other, until the first gray hint of false dawn crept through the window. A distant bell tolled. The inquiry would begin soon. Ronan's arms tightened. "Whatever happens in that hall today, remember this moment. This is the truth they can't touch." I pressed a kiss to the scar above his heart. "I will." He slipped from the bed, dressing quickly, stealing one last lingering kiss before he moved to the balcony door. "Stay strong," he whispered. "I'm coming for you, one way or another." The door closed behind him. I curled beneath the covers, skin still tingling, soul branded with his words. But outside the manor was waking. Voices rose in the corridors, urgent, alarmed. A sharp crack echoed through the stone walls, like glass shattering, like fate breaking open. The false mark. It had finally audibly shattered. Shouts erupted below. Footsteps thundered toward the great hall. And somewhere in the chaos, Seraphina's scream cut through the dawn, raw, furious, terrified. The reckoning had begun, but we weren't ready yet. If you've been feeling every heartbeat of Elara's quiet pain, every stolen touch with Ronan, every crack in Seraphina's perfect lie, then you already know this story isn't finished. The false mark has shattered. The pack is divided. The inquiry is happening at first light, and Ronan has already chosen, publicly, irrevocably, dangerously. But what happens when the elders demand he reject her to save the pack? When Seraphina turns her pain into one final devastating play? When Elara has to decide whether to shrink back into silence or finally claim the love that's always been hers? This is the moment everything changes. Want to know how it ends? Want to feel the moment Ronan roars the truth in front of the entire pack? Want to see Seraphina's mask finally slip? Want Elara to rise, not as the quiet twin, but as the woman who refuses to be erased? Then say the word.